Okay, so I have a Maytag Gemini. Maytag Gemini dual ovens, not convection. It's a dual oven. And I see a lot of people having a lot of similar problems online. And you know, I just started having the same problem. f1-2 code, which is a lower sensor. Bring me the flashlight, please, Bubba. It's a lower temperature sensor. So if it's not the lower temperature sensor, then it's the circuit board on this thing, which is really expensive. Bring me the flashlight, please. Hurry up. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. You move like it's a turtle. So what happens is, if you look up here, I went ahead and replaced that sensor. That's it in the back left corner. And you can see it up there, right? That rod. So that was the f1-2 code, which said replace the sensor. If it wasn't the sensor, it was the circuit board, right? So I figured, what the hell, I'll go ahead and replace the sensor. And replace the sensor, top ovens, and everything worked fine. And that was about 5 days ago. And then had another code just now, trying to cook dinner, right? So I kind of got mad, because I'm like, you know what? I don't think it's a circuit board. I don't see anything that's fried out on a circuit board, but that don't really mean anything, right? But anyway, here's your circuit board, your motherboard for this oven. And what happens, so there's another shitty design here again. I'm going to rag on these shitty ass designs that I can't stand. These engineers get paid so much money and they just come out with shit. So here's what happens on these things. This is what's going on. On the back of the oven here, you have this vent, and you can see that I've sealed mine up with my I Love It to Death RTV high temperature silicone, right? So what goes on here is this vent tube, which comes from the bottom oven, right? Vents up, and it comes out the front of the stove. I'll show you in a minute. But it has all these holes and cracks, and they don't seal it up right, and especially back here, right? Especially back here, there's just a big gap, right? So as you're cooking, all this smoke and grease comes up. It's supposed to come up through this tube and go out the front, a little bit of the air from the oven. But what it does is it releases this grease, and what's sitting up under here, right, is these vents to allow air to ventilate your circuit board. Well, that smoke and grease gets up in here, and I cleaned the hell out of this thing. You should have seen it when I took it apart. And it was just a grease pit in here. So I sprayed down the circuit board, cleaned it all up. But anyway, what happens is this grease gets all up in here, and it gets in your connections and causes the connections. You can see there's a residual grease here, right? But it gets on these connectors, right? So what happens? What happens is these connectors don't make a good connection. See it? So what's really going on? Because I tested the ohms on my sensor, but this is a pretty old stove, and here's a lower sensor for the lower oven, right? That's right here, which I replaced. Here's the upper sensor for the upper oven. But it tested out ohm-wise. It was just a little bit off. 1100 ohms is where they're supposed to be. So I put the new sensor in. And then lo and behold, I get a direct code, 2-3, where before it was a 1-2, which could have been the sensor or the board, right? Well, the 2-3 says it's got to be the lower oven sensor, right? So I went up to the connect, or a short, right? 2-3 is a sensor or a short. So I'm tracing the line, see if I got a short. And I come up to the connector here, and I start wiggling around with a connection, and it starts working. So all these people going through all these problems can alleviate this problem simply by taking your circuit board, if you're having this type of a problem, remove the connection. I actually broke, there was little retainer, you know, Bakelite plastic retainers on here that held these on, but the stove's so old that when I went to release these connectors, they broke off. It's no big deal, because it ain't like this thing's vibrating at 1,000,000 miles an hour and needs those on there anyway, right? So I'm going to go, it's not a washing machine, it's a stove. So I'm going to go ahead and clean these connectors up. I'm going to clean out the inside here of this plug, and I'll put it back together. But that's your problem. So your problem lies in this stove's design, is that this whole circuit board, if you take yours apart, I guarantee you're going to see, if you look down here between the wires, you see the grease down there? That is clean compared to what all of this looked like when I took it apart. It was just nasty. So I degreased all of this, cleaned this all up, put it back together. I did clean the pins once, but it looks like I've got to get inside this plug and get it clean. So anyway, hopefully that saves some people some money. So to finish what I was saying, what happens is that vent comes through and it ventilates out the front here, right? Problem is with all the leaks and cracks in the ventilation tube in the back that are made that way, right? It's made that way. It winds up greasing out your back, your circuit board, and all your connectors. So hopefully this helps some people out in the Maytag Gemini. It probably apply to a lot of other stoves too, right? The Maytag Gemini stove. I really like this stove. This is the old Schott. This is the old Schott German glass, right? This is really good stuff. It's better than this Chinese shit. This is German. So, I mean, you can't scratch this. You can't damage it. I mean, unless you take a hammer to it. So, another tip, if you're cleaning these, use a stainless steel Brillo pad. Clean them while they're hot. And if you look at mine, you can tell it looks brand new. I never leave my stove dirty. I never burn a pot on here. This thing's always kept clean, well, for the most part, right? So, that's from working on it. But if you keep them clean, they don't look nasty and they don't go to hell in a handbasket quick on you. So this stove's, like I said, about 12 years old. It's in real good shape. I've done some work with the handles and put some better handles on it. So hopefully this tip helps some people out. If you have an f1-2 code related to your lower temperature sensor, your temperature sensor ohms out at the right ohms, then I would suggest that before you replace your $350 motherboard on the back of your stove, to clean it, all the connectors, degrease it, and get it clean, and then put it back together and see if that helps. So hopefully this helps some people out and save you a little money. All right, take care.